Welcome to the review of Linux Mint 18, the Ultimate Cold Turkey Survival Guide. I am author Roger Lee. This is my third ebook. Look at the links below the video for ways to purchase my ebooks over at lulu.com. I want to cover this book quickly. What led to the production of this ebook? Well, what led to the production of 3 ebooks over three years was the introduction of Microsoft Windows 8 and 10 and the toolbar, spyware, and malware of every free app for Microsoft Windows on the entire internet. Even the corporate companies were malwaring their products, claiming that if you got them for free, well, you owed it to them to let them put a toolbar in your browser. Well, with Linux, you don't really have this problem. The software is open and nobody malwares and nobody toolbars. If there is one like that, I haven't seen it yet. So that's what led to the production of these books. Who are the books written for? They're mainly written for Microsoft users who maybe have been a Microsoft user for about 20 years. And they're a hardcore computer user, but they don't really know Linux. They wanted to try Linux. They tried Linux several times, maybe run it in a virtual machine, but can never fully switch to it because they just feel completely lost. This book is written for you. It's written for the average man, the common man, who needs to understand the common things everybody needs to know when they switch to another operating system. This is not for techno geeks. There is some fairly heavy technical stuff in here, but it's only if you want to get into it, like building your own RAM disk or tweaking your system. There's a lot in this book. There's 261 chapters. And that's not pages, that's just chapters. Why would you need this book? Perhaps you want to leave what your current OS. It might be a current distribution of Linux other than Mint. It might be Mac OS. It might be anything, whatever's out there nowadays. But mainly written from the perspective of a Microsoft user myself who went cold turkey and left Microsoft the hard way. I switched to Linux in one day and had none of this help. So, but it doesn't have to be that hard for you. This book will make life easy for you. You do not have to read the whole book. You can use each individual chapter to solve your individual problems as you incur them, or needs, as you need to understand how to do something in Linux. Can you do everything in Linux you did in Microsoft? The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. Anything you did in Microsoft, you can do it in Linux. There is an app for you. There is a solution. And I cover almost all of them. Due to battling and bickering over DRM, there are some things I don't include in the book, but you can drop me an email and I'll tell you what those are. What makes this book special? Real quick, this is a living book. This book changes on a regular basis. When you buy this book, you're not just getting a one-time print. I add chapters on a monthly basis to this book. If you buy this book, you're going to get updates. You're going to get fixes. Over time, as Linux changes and procedures change, you're going to get any fixes needed to make the procedure continue to work. Let's move on here. I'm going to go through the chapter list now. As you can see, I've got a new chapter called Updates, which will show you all the updates that have occurred on your particular version. I'd like to give some credits for cover art. Ron Leishman did the Cold Turkey picture for this book, and Johnny D. Wicked did the cover art for the Met 17 ebook. Let's move down. This book is basically linear. If you follow it from top to bottom, you're going to, it does everything according to how you would do it if you were first installing Linux. I cover some basic things you need to know about Linux for those who know basically nothing. I cover some view hardware information section, which will show you how to view all of your hardware in Linux using either multiple different GUIs or the shell, monitoring your temperatures, monitoring your CPU usage, monitoring your hard drive usage. It's all covered. The next thing that might happen to you when you're installing Linux is you're going to want to check your hard drives before installation for are they good. You can show you how with the GUI and the shell how to use the smart test to verify your drive is mechanically sound. I even show you how to mark bad blocks as do not use anymore, but that's for after you're through installing Linux. I also show you how to securely wipe and prep a drive for encryption. Encryption is very important nowadays. You need to know how to do this, and I have one of the fastest procedures for securely wiping a drive. I have an entire section on pre-installation tips. You're going to have questions before you install Linux, and you need to know what your options are. I cover prepping the drive, partitioning, multiple monitor setups, which tends to be a problem with Linux Mint. But during the install process, you really want one monitor hooked up, and that's it, if you have multiple monitors. I cover UEFI, what you need to know, GPT partitioning, what you need to know before you install. I cover very briefly which kernels need to be used, depending on what kind of software you want to use. Though nowadays Mint 18 is going to install a bare minimum of kernel 4.4 and a kernel 8.2 if you're installing the latest 18.2. I recommend nothing less than kernel 4.4.2, preferably 4.5.4, due to RAID issues. I have chapters on upgrading. We have finally the install section, which will show you how to download the ISO, how to write it out to either a CD or a thumb drive, and verify that it's good. We have an easy method of install. We have technical issues that can occur and what to do about them. How to install more than one copy of Linux and make sure they all show up on the grub menu. I have some chapters that are for advanced users. We'll show you how to do a RAID 1 mirror plus encryption plus logical volume manager, all in one fell swoop. And I have another version of it that throws in UEFI mode and GPT. Depends on how daring you are. I cover post-install issues, technical issues. I also cover System D versus Upstart versus Init. Which do you want to use? I'll show you how to use any of these 3 systems for booting your system. Grub. Grub is, I cover very quick and easy tips on using Grub, the very basics, what you need to know. I don't get into the complex stuff. I also have a chapter on emergencies. If you get the busy box error, which means your file system's corrupt, how to take care of that. How to do an offline repair of Mint, very important. And it will fix many issues. How to recover lost Etsy files. That's very common for people to accidentally delete their Etsy files. I cover how elevating your privileges with sudo. I cover a few RAID issues if you're going to be using RAID. And then after all Linux Mint is finally installed, we get to installing software. I cover all the different ways you can install software, from the software manager to deb packages off of a web file, to using a PPA, I explain what that is, to using Git, which is made by the maker of the Linux kernel, Linus Torvalds. I cover how to install from the install DVD, which is normally not where things will come from. Linux Mint expects you to get your packages from the internet, but you can add your DVD if need be. I cover all manner of install issues. All right, in managing updates, I show you how to check for updates, resolve errors, upgrade, and select a kernel using the update manager. If you have Turbo in your CPU, AMD or i7, Intel i7, I show you how you can install a nice GUI app that will let you control your Turbo settings from the desktop. And I cover all the issues that concerning that. Video card drivers, have quite a few chapters on that, including how to install using the GUI, how to install using the shell, handling NVIDIA Optimus, where you have an Intel video card and an NVIDIA video card all in the same machine, and how to switch back and forth between them to save energy. I cover NVIDIA overclocking, which is sometimes available in the NVIDIA driver and sometimes not. I do my best with the ATI drivers. Right now ATI has gone full open source, and so I give my best advice on using AMD. Preferably just use the open source driver, whatever Linux Mint gives you from the install. I have a chapter on video card acceleration, covering exactly what packages you need to install if you want video acceleration. And that's pretty much necessary if you're playing any kind of movies or YouTube or any kind of movie player. You're going to want video card acceleration drivers installed. Benchmarking your video card, I show you how to do that. You did it in Windows. You ran an app that pushed your video card to the limits. It's available in Linux also. Under network card drivers, I try and cover the most common problem, which is Broadcom. Everybody's got a Broadcom in their laptop, and Broadcom is not by default installed by Linux Mint. You need to know what to do. And yes, you can do it without access to the internet. The Broadcom drivers are on the DVD or thumb drive you use to install. I show you how to use a Windows driver instead if you absolutely can't get a network driver for your network card. That's more of a best effort option there. Wacom tablets, sound. I cover a lot of sound issues in the book, such as no sound in your web browser, sound breaking up, volume too low. I also cover more advanced features like making Firefox and LibreOffice talk to you, selecting a piece of text and having it spoke back to you. I do cover a speech alternative for Dragon Naturally Speaking called Simon and Lyra. I cover printer issues and show you where you can get printer drivers for your printer if your printer does not work by default. I cover HP issues. HP does not open source all printer drivers. Yes, HP Lip is open source, but if you have a multifunction from HP, your printer, in fact, scan support is not going to be built in. You have to download a special plugin, and it's available in Mint. I show you how to scan with scanners, including scanning multiple pages repeatedly. I cover Bluetooth. I haven't had a lot of success with Bluetooth, so I don't have anything really great to say about it in Linux. If it works for you, it works for you. I'm glad for you. It doesn't work for me, and I have a lot of expensive hardware it doesn't work on. I do cover webcams and how you can buy a webcam that's absolutely going to work in Linux. I have a drivers chapter. If all else fails and you can't get a driver for your hardware, this chapter will basically show you how to do what you used to do with the Microsoft Windows Device Manager, but do it in Linux. Show me the hardware that doesn't have drivers. Show me if the hardware does have a driver. Show me the vendor ID and product ID so I can search the internet for a driver. I cover some other things, an entire chapter on tweaking, from changing your splash screen, changing your grub background, speeding up your system. That's very detailed. I go into encryption and SSDs, etc., etc. I show you how to time applications to see how long they run. CPU affinity and priority is something you did in Microsoft. If you knew how to use the task manager, you could assign a process to run on only the first two CPUs. That's affinity. Anyway, I show you how to do that in Linux. And then I also discuss throttling CPU usage and building your own RAM disk. I have a very long custom script I wrote that will help you build your own custom RAM disk at will. I do cover MSI laptops, as that's the kind I use. I'm going to cover SteelSeries keyboards, USB SteelSeries keyboards, and how you can light them up, make them breathe, glow, do the wave, etc. Should work on any USB MSI SteelSeries keyboard. I discuss backups critically. The best way to back up your system. I discuss multiple methods. I discuss applications that look and run like Acronis and Nortons. How to manually back up your partition tables, manually clone your hard drives, and how to back up your encryption keys. It's all covered. On the Cinnamon desktop chapters, I go over the basic use, what to do if you have a crashed theme, how to save and restore your desktop icon positions. If you ever had a load of icons on your desktop and had them scrambled and jumbled around, this is a very important chapter. How to create a launcher on your desktop to launch an application, to resolve launcher issues, run software on login if you have trouble getting that to work. I cover a lot of basic issues. Encryption. Linux doesn't use TrueCrypt, as you may have used in Microsoft. It uses the Linux Unified Key System. I go over the entire Linux Unified Key System and the basics of implementing it and what you need to know. I do have a chapter on TrueCrypt in Linux, and that's there for Microsoft users. File system chapters. I go over repairing broken home folders, making sure you can access your thumb drives, repairing Linux file systems, repairing Windows file systems, recovering files from a bad hard drive, handling partitions, hidden system files, defragging. Yes, there's a defragger for Linux and it works quite well. Recovering lost files, locating files. If you have a large number of files, I show you how to find the files quickly. Microsoft Windows. I cover Microsoft Windows for several reasons. Basically, you have an app that won't run in anything but Windows, so you can't get it to run in Linux. But I show you how to run software, Windows software in Linux, how to run Windows games in Linux, how to run the entire Windows OS in Linux, and I cover Crossover, a commercial version of Wine that is very nice and will allow you to run Windows Office, Quicken, and a lot of other important apps that people need. Virtual machines. You're going to need a virtual machine if you want to run Windows and Linux. So I cover how to use VMware mainly, and how to convert back and forth between VMware and VirtualBox. Some tips on speeding up Windows, and some other important tips. Gaming, I cover Steam for Linux. New to this book, I am covering QEMU with GPU pass-through. This QEMU is a virtual machine that is rather unique. It will let you pass a gaming video card off to the QEMU emulator to Windows 7 or 10 or whatever you want to install, and you can play. It'll be a full copy of Windows running in Linux. You can play your DirectX 11 games. I cover installing Doom, Brutal Doom, and Doom 3, the Linux versions. I cover some tips on broadcasting on Twitch. A couple of chapters on compressions and archivers and my personal experience and opinions on the matter. Then we have the internet chapters. I get into remote support using TeamViewer and how to secure TeamViewer. It was hacked. You don't have to be hacked. You can learn how to use TeamViewer safely. I cover YouTube, downloading entire playlists, combining separate audio and video files. If you end up downloading a separate audio and video file, how to combine them back together again. I cover ad blockers. Very important nowadays that you have an ad blocker. Ad blockers, ads on the internet are the source of malware, ransomware, and Trojans on the internet, period. Those JavaScript ads that are running in websites need to be blocked. If you don't, you're going to end up being a victim. So I show you 3 different ad blockers and how to use them. I cover BitTorrent. Very important, I cover throttling bandwidth using a couple of different apps, FTP clients and servers. I cover some Thunderbird email issues. Then we have the security section where I discuss with my personal experience and opinions on protecting yourself in a modern world against bad people. Then I'll discuss antivirus, how to track your stolen laptop using Linux. Firewalls. I've never seen this in a book for Linux, but I cover 4 different firewalls, app firewalls you can use in Linux. Blacklisting. There's more to it than you think. Maybe perhaps you use PeerBlock or PeerGuardian in Windows. PeerGuardian is available for Linux, but there's a lot more you can do with it. So I get into building custom block lists, allow lists, generating ACL lists for entire countries, and I have a couple of Perl scripts in here that I've custom written that will convert those lists, ACL lists, into lists that are usable by most apps. Also under security, I discussed secure deletion using the GUIs and multiple apps that will securely delete using the shell. I have a media section, covers matters of comfort like iTunes, iPod, radio, Shockwave Flash, Netflix. Watching TV, I have several methods, including generating a TV list using the shell if you need to for use with VLC. I cover burning CDs, I cover video editing, Blu-ray compression with examples. I show you how to compress video, including VHS tapes, using Blu-ray from the shell. Handbrake and other apps. I have advanced conversion examples on converting videos. And then I have an ImageMagick cheat sheet if you have to do a lot of batch processing of pictures. I have some chapters at the end on publishing, including Cherry Tree Notes, which I use personally and heavily, Calibre, the ebook reader, and Sigil, the EPUB editor, which these books were made with. There's a lot in this book. If you have any questions, let's see, where is it? Contacts. Okay. Yeah, you can contact me at lm17fapmfa@twc.com. I'll try and put that in the link below the video. If you have any questions, this book took a long time to write, and it's here for you if you need to switch to Linux and it looks very daunting and you need as much help as possible. This book is going to cover all of the standard common issues people encounter when trying to Microsoft to Linux. So make it easy on yourself and buy a copy of this book over at lulu.com. Once again, this is author Roger Lee. Thank you for listening.